Hello, Easton, and welcome to the Rabbi's Roundtable for 2023. Wow, it's amazing. It's Nick just said this is our 16th season. It's hard to believe, and I'm delighted to be here, and we have a very interesting show coming up. My first guest, some of you may know her, some of you may not, Cheryl Kramer. Cheryl Kramer is a member of Temple B'nai Israel. This may be a little self-serving, but that's okay. We have a great program coming up. Cheryl, among other things, oversees what's called our Engage program, and welcome to the Rabbi's Roundtable.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you so much for having me here today.
I'm glad we can do it. So let's talk a little bit about the upcoming Engage program, who's coming, what's happening, and why people should come.
We are very excited that we're going to be hosting the Annapolis Opera Company, as well as Rachel Franklin, who is a concert pianist.
Well known
in the artistic community here, particularly because she works often with the Art Academy.
Yep.
So people know her very, very well. And they are going to be exploring the development of the modern musical, coming up on January 22nd, which is a Sunday, from 2 to 4 p.m., and we're very, very excited because they're going to be really exploring the great lyricists and composers for many of the old Broadway programming that I grew up with.
Me too.
Okay, good. Irving Berlin and George Gershwin and Oscar Hammerstein. They're going to be picking selections from various plays like The White Christmas and Porgy and Bess and probably Oklahoma and others that I can't even remember. So it's going to be very, very exciting. The Music Man, yes.
The first musical I ever saw on Broadway.
I saw Wildcat with Lucille Ball.
Did you really?
Yes,
wow.
That tells you how old I am. But anyway.
And where is this going to take place?
This is going to take place at Temple B'nai Israel, which is on Tristan Drive off the bypass.
Yep.
And as I said, it's going to be 2 to 4 p.m. in the afternoon. And we are hoping to have a good crowd.
Well, the piano's getting tuned next week, I believe.
Yes.
So that's a good thing.
And by the way, we're checking the sound system too, just in case.
That's good.
Yeah.
If people want to come, how do they get to come? What do they have
Very
to do?
simply, they can either call the temple and just get more information, or they can go directly to Eventbrite, www.eventbrite.com, which is the ticketing agency we're using online. And they can search either Temple B'nai Israel, or they can search Explore the Modern Musical.
Or they can also call Temple.
They could call Temple. And we prefer to be selling online our tickets for $36 a person. And we certainly will sell tickets at the door as well.
That's an exciting program. As you know, these kinds of things motivate lots of us. Rachel has performed at Temple before. I'm excited that she's coming back.
Yes.
She is so good. What else should we know about this?
Well, we should know that the Annapolis Opera started back in 1927 with a group of folks from Annapolis just involved in summer theater. And they were so excited about being together that they went ahead and they produced the first opera back then from Giancarlo's, I think it was called, not the Mystic, but the Medium. And it was about,
Medium,
was the Medium. And it was about, obviously, a soothsayer, a fortune teller. And little did they know that 50 years later, if they looked in their crystal ball, we would still be...
They'd be coming to the synagogue.
They'd be coming to the synagogue. That's right. Well, I don't know if they...
Sorry.
Probably very little did they know.
My inappropriate humor, but that's all right.
Right, but it's funny. Anyway, so that's how it started, and they celebrated their 50th anniversary this year. So they are going strong. They also have a little niche that they operate under, and that is letting new artists come into their fold when they're starting out their careers. And having spent time with the managing director, Kathy Sweckel, they've got a really exciting program. They'll be bringing their own accompanist as well as 2 artists. I think the first person's name is, Dirk Holtzman, as well as Colleen Daly. Both of them have been noted in the Washington Post as well as other periodicals and news media as being really, really good. And the artistic director, who is Craig Keir,
Right.
Was appointed in 2020 as the artistic director. He will be the maestro and will be accompanying the two artists. So it's really going to be a great show.
So again, just the time, the
Yes.
place, the date. Let's
Temple B'nai Israel, Sunday, January 22nd, from 2 to 4 p.m. The website to go on is www.eventbrite, one word, all lowercase.com. You can search for Temple B'nai Israel, or you can search for Exploring the Modern Musical. $36 a ticket, and we hope to
Terrific.
see everybody there.
I hope so too. It's going to be a great program. It's very exciting for a multiplicity of reasons. We're very glad to have, thank you for all the work you did. We're glad to have Rachel back and expand this kind of programming, not only for Temple, but for the community.
Correct. We're very excited about it.
Yes, we've been talking with Cheryl Kramer, who is the chair of the Engage program at the Temple, and we appreciate your time and look forward to the program.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And we will be back momentarily.
The Avalon Foundation and MCTV programming is proudly supported by Easton Hardware and Floor Covering. Since 1939, we're still there and we still care.
And we are back, and welcome again to the Rabbi's Roundtable. I'm Rabbi Peter Hyman, Rabbi at Temple B'nai Israel, and we are coming to you from the studios of MCTV in the Avalon Theater. My next guest, some of you also know, Sarah Jesse. Sarah is the director of the Art Academy. Thank you for taking the time to be here. I have to tell you one quick story. When I came to interview, people said, I came down and I saw all this water and I was very happy and all that, but they said, have you been to the Art Academy yet? I said, no. And I went to the Art Academy and I was even then blown away. Wow. This is a long time ago, so yes, you run an important piece of our community, and that's really important. Sarah has been the director of the Art Academy since May of 2021. She has a very impressive resume. Let me just give you a little bit of it. She was previously deputy director as well as interim director and CEO of the Orange County Museum of Art. Very nice. I've been there, actually. Associate Vice President of Education at the Los Angeles County Museum of Art, and the Director of Education and Public Programs at the Philbrook Museum of Art in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Also, the Assistant Director of Public Programs at the Museum of Contemporary Art in Chicago. Very cool. Sarah grew up in Michigan, received her BA in Art History from Oberlin College, and an MA, a Master's degree in Art History from the University of Illinois at Chicago. What's really interesting is she's dedicated her career to making museums accessible to everyone and has presented on best practices for the museums field in the United States, Australia, China, and Italy. And before we get to the questions, what did you do in China? Where did you go?
Well, I went to Beijing and some other smaller towns, Xiamen and other places.
Oh, wow.
Talking about museum education, because there were so many museums being built in China at the time. Oh. And so they were looking to museum educators in the United States to relay best practices.
Wow, that must have been very exciting.
It was fascinating.
And of course, Italy. Where in Italy did you go?
Rome. I studied abroad in Florence, so I've spent some time in Italy, but that particular project was in Rome.
I always say, if that I didn't live here, I'd live in Rome.
Gosh, me too.
Anyway,
me too.
That's not why you're here, but thank you. Very impressive background.
Oh, thank you.
So, we have a couple of things to discuss about our own very impressive art museum. Let's talk first about the recent announcement to offer free admission.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Right, yeah, that's a big announcement for us. You know, museums are these incredible public places that should be for everyone, but too often people feel intimidated to go or they feel uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. And so we know that there are both these practical barriers to access and these perceptual barriers. Perceptual barriers meaning the stigma of elitism. A lot of people think that museums are only for the wealthy, the educated, and it comes from this history of exclusionary practices in art museums specifically. And then the other factor are some of these practical barriers, like museums not being open when working class people have leisure time, or the admission fee. And so over the past couple of years at the Academy Art Museum, we've been trying to chip away at these barriers and or
Yes.
eliminate them.
Good for you.
And so we've made a bunch of progress, but we had this lingering $3 admission fee that we really wanted to remove, because for some people $3 is a lot when you don't have disposable income.
Sure.
And the other thing that I think was happening at the Academy specifically was that a lot of people didn't know how much it cost to enter, and they thought it was more than $3 to enter. So it just kept people away. So we introduced removing it. And, you know, a lot of museums are hesitant to remove the admission fee because once you do it, you can't go back.
Right.
And, you know, it is a loss of revenue, and for some museums, it's a membership perk. But our community is so unique in that it's so philanthropic. There's this real culture of wanting to give back. And so my hunch was that actually going free might actually incentivize more people to become members and incentivize more support.
And you've been right, I would imagine.
Yeah, it's true, it's true.
I'm
So
not surprised.
we just made the announcement, and so the museum is now free. There are absolutely no barriers to access whatsoever. Everyone is welcome to come at all times. And so it's a wonderful, I think, legacy for the museum and gift to not
Community.
only this community right now, but generations of community members down the road in the future.
And you are also setting an example for other museums in communities similar to ours.
Yeah, exactly.
Good for you.
Yeah.
How big is your staff?
We have about 17 staff that are full and part-time.
Okay.
We punch above our weight for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us about upcoming events and what should we be looking for, and what the community wants to go and see.
Yeah, so much stuff. So our big show coming up is Mary Cassatt, Labor and Leisure. You probably know Mary Cassatt. She's a world-renowned American impressionist. The Impressionist movement, for some of our viewers who may not know, is a very popular art movement that happened in the late 1800s. And at the time was very controversial. It's funny to think about that today, because today it's very likable and very mainstream.
Time moves.
It does, yes,
does.
that's a good way of putting it. And so when we think of the Impressionist movement, we often think of European men, typically, Degas,
Yeah, sure.
Monet, Pissarro, a lot of these people. She, interestingly, is a woman, and she's American. And so she's really fascinating in this way to look at, because there were so many obstacles that got in her way from becoming this
Yes.
well-known, incredible artist. You know, at the time, women did not have career opportunities. Women,
Especially in the arts.
in the arts, women weren't even allowed to enter some schools and get the training.
Oh, I know.
Women weren't allowed to work from a live nude model, so couldn't really learn anatomy in that way. So she defied so many odds to become this incredible artist. And so we have this exhibition opening on January 18th, and we have a big party to celebrate it on January 20th. Everybody's invited, it's free, and we'll have food and drink, and you'll get
January
to see
20th?
Yeah.
I'll be there.
Oh, good. That'll be great. Yeah, so you'll see beautiful paintings, but you'll also learn a little bit about the context of the time and what makes her
important.
so unique.
Important. No, that's for a multiplicity of reasons. It's really so important that we present this as
Yeah.
not just from the art museum, but it speaks to the community.
Yes.
And our values and our perspective and our understanding of history, and try to correct those things that infringed upon who we are.
Yes, definitely. I mean, even to this day, women are not as represented in museum collections as men. I mean, the struggle continues from this legacy, but Mary Cassatt was a definite trailblazer.
Absolutely.
So it'll be really interesting to see her work. And interestingly, too, her work really focused on a lot of domestic scenes of mothers, with children,
Absolutely.
and that too reflects the content that she had access to as opposed to some of her male
Right.
contemporaries.
That's really exciting.
Yeah, it's
And-
interesting.
And is there something going on in the Hill community?
So we have a new project that we are embarking on, which is really exciting. We were gifted properties adjacent to the museum to develop an annex. And this annex will be on the former land of the first free Black land-owning family in Easton, the James and Henny Freeman family. And so we want to use this annex to honor their legacy and to
terrific.
tell their story.
You'll come back and we'll talk more about
Good,
this. huh?
yes,
I'm not cutting you off.
exactly.
Continue.
No, we're,
But,
yes,
this
because
is
we're
exciting.
just embarking on it now, so there's so much more to unfold. But before we develop the annex, we are commissioning an archaeological study of the site. And some of our viewers may know that there were 3 different studies on the site previously conducted by University of Maryland.
Yep.
And they found many objects that lend to a fuller understanding of the African American experience in Easton and have been really important in telling a more nuanced story of African American people in this area. And so we hope to build on that scholarship and research and commission a study on the land. And then once we're satisfied that we've unearthed all of the historical evidence that remains, then we'll look into developing that annex and using some of those objects to tell the story of the past.
Which is deep and profound and impacting.
Yeah,
You
it
know,
is.
serious-
It is.
It really
This
is.
such an interesting geographical
Oh,
place. Historically, yes. So I think that in particular, this context is significant, not just for this region, but kind of nationally too.
Yes. I know Richard Potter, who's the president of the NAACP, his family goes back a very long time, and we've talked about, he's been on the show, and we've talked about these kinds of issues as well. So this is wonderful. It really is good for you for doing all this stuff.
It's exciting and it's fascinating.
It's exciting, it's fascinating, and it's really necessary.
Agreed.
It adds to the substance and the foundation of our community. So thank you very much.
Agreed, yes.
We've been talking with Sarah Jesse. Sarah, thank you for taking the time to be on the Rabbi's Roundtable. You will come back, because I really do want to address more of these issues in detail when you just let me know, and
I would love to.
we'll work that out. But thank you for being here, and thank you for all you're doing. It makes a difference.
Thank you so much.
We will be back momentarily, Easton.
I got the shot, man, because I believe in the science.
I got vaccinated so I could hug my 5 kids and 14 grandkids.
We all got vaccinated.
Because we want to see you back in the theater.
Well, as a survivor of COVID, I really did it for other people.
I've also had the virus. I do not want it again.
We got COVID and then they sent me to Johns Hopkins. Oh my gosh, it's the worst thing anyone could ever go through.
I genuinely feel like it's my patriotic duty to get vaccinated.
Do it for your state, do it for your country, do it for you.
I talked to my friends and family in India and Pakistan, and they don't have that access whatsoever.
I'm tired of Zoom. You're tired of Zoom.
It's my turn to take a chance.
Take advantage of that privilege.
Get the vaccine, please, for me, for your family.
And I got it because of what she said.
And we are back. And again, welcome to the Rabbi's Roundtable, the first show in 2023. And we're very excited. My next guest is a very interesting individual. Not only did he just recently come back from Cuba, but Scott Cohen has been around the world and has been helpful in a number of issues. And I recently learned that Scott undertook a journey to the Ukraine to help cook for war refugees. That has to be transformative. And I want to talk about this. First, well, welcome to the Rabbi's Roundtable. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. And you went to Lviv?
I went outside of Lviv.
And then I also know you were in Poland?
I started in Poland.
Yeah, cool. Well, so this is really important. This is not just interesting. This is important. As an American citizen, as a
human.
As a human
yes. being.
Yeah, I can give sermons about this, but we're going to talk about it anyway. What prompted you to do this? What's the motivation?
Rabbi, I will be honest with you. I cannot tell you the seminal moment where I made this decision. I don't watch a lot of news on TV, or I don't watch a lot of TV. I was reading an article, I was talking with my wife, and there was something about the fact that they were having a hard time feeding the refugees and the numbers that were coming through, running for their lives. And I looked at Madeline, my wife, and I said, I want to go. I have a skill, I have a talent, I can cook for a lot of people.
Yep.
And so I want to go. And I started reaching out to various organizations, and I booked a flight. I booked a one-way flight to Warsaw, Poland, figuring I'll go anywhere in Europe to help. So plan A was go and hook up with one of these organizations that was already there on the ground feeding refugees. The feedback and the ability to get information was very awkward and difficult, and sometimes the information coming back wasn't exactly what I was looking for, i.e. they're filling box lunches, and, so they're passing out candy bars and sandwiches, and I really wanted to go and cook for these people.
Do you speak the language?
I speak no foreign languages. I struggle with English, but I speak food, and I've traveled the world, and I can speak food. And what happened was 3 days before I left, I was connected with a priest. I was given the name of a priest in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, who I was told was very involved in the Ukraine, and he was the guy to talk to. However, he was also impossible to reach. And that's not something that impossible isn't part of my vernacular. So I literally wrote to the church he was at, I texted, I found a phone number, I called and left a message, I emailed every board member. Anyway, within an hour, I got a call back from this priest who had been very much involved in raising money for the effort. So he was the one that the rock stars would call when they were looking to donate $1 million type thing. So, the fact is he called me back, and the call went back and forth a couple of times before we actually had a moment to have a conversation. But he said, look, can you really cook for a lot of people? And I said, yes, I can. He said, okay, I need you in the Ukraine.
Wow.
And I said, Father, I appreciate that. My wife has been extremely supportive of what I'm doing. She has put one condition on it, and that is that I not go to the Ukraine. In other words, not go into the war zone.
Sure.
And he said, I understand. I said, look, I'll go to Poland, I'll go to Spain, I'll go anywhere the refugees are. He says, I need you in the Ukraine. He said, I need you. It's pretty far west, so it's out of, quote, the hot zones, but I need you there. And he explained that there were 2 women who had been cooking at this church and this, what they call the Pilgrim House, which was part of a tour of churches in the Ukraine, and you would do these pilgrim tours.
So what did you cook? What was it? Well, tell us what your day was like.
So I started at 5:30 in the morning. The 2 women that were cooking had been doing this nonstop since the war started. The church opened their doors, and they had between 50 and 200 people at any
every day.
Every day.
Wow.
And the meals, they served 3 meals a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And the meals were not just buffet style, they were plated.
Wow.
So it was really to make people feel like
some sense of normalcy.
Normalcy and being human and being, it wasn't just come and take a sandwich. I mean, there was a beautiful plate like you would get in a restaurant, and there was, you know, the tables were set, and it was really done to make them feel like human. They were human, exactly.
And who provided the food?
So there was 8 organizations delivered food daily to the church. Everything from the Red Cross to other organizations around the world. 2 things about it. One, a lot of that food being delivered is processed, which I don't eat and I didn't want to serve. And 2 was that it was in different quantities and different qualities. So an example is that the pantry had a whole shelf of rice, but that rice could be from 15 different countries. The languages on the packages were in 15 different languages, and I didn't have the skill to figure out, well, this is long-range rice. And, and so that was one challenge. But the second is that I made a decision that this was something that my wife and I wanted to support. And so I brought enough money to buy food, and I went to the market in Liv and bought food and came back and cooked it. Wow. And so I ended up, the first thing is I would get driven to the market, and the first thing I did, my Google Translate was I typed a note saying, this is a cook from the United States, and he is feeding the refugees at the church, and he would appreciate the best deal or additional product if you would. And I showed that to whoever who took me to the market, and they would look at it and go, no, you know, this isn't what we do. And I just read that, okay? And they did. And believe it or not, the people who at the market read or heard that said, oh my gosh, let me give you a bag of extra vegetables, or let me give you a basket of this, or you know what, this part of the meat, we're not going to charge you for it. And so I ended up getting, and they saw this, I mean, even though it wasn't part of their culture, they saw that people in the Ukraine actually really wanted to support this also. I bought things that I'd never bought before. I bought a half a lamb to start with, but I didn't have time to get it butchered. Yeah. So I literally carried it over my shoulders, right, and put it in the car. And as we're driving back, I'm texting people that are in the restaurant industry and people who I know are cooks and my butcher, and saying, okay, how does one go about doing this? And they say, well, get your big chef knife and get a saw and get your cleaver. And I'm writing back, I don't have any of these things. But the best advice I got was get an axe. And find somebody with an axe, and I found the woodshed in the back, and there was Sasha with a big axe, and he helped me butcher lamb. But I would buy whatever I could, and then bring it back to the church and cook.
What about the political climate? What did you experience? Did you encounter any Russians?
I made a point of trying to avoid political and religious conversations. That doesn't mean that I didn't get exposed to it. The fact of the matter is that, look, the reason that I'm doing this, my whole thing was to do this anonymously. I wasn't looking for any publicity or needing to tell it publicly. This was something very personal. The last night, well, along the way, the priest came to me and said there was a journalist who had contacted him and had been trying to contact me, and was I did I get the email or the message? And I said, you know what, truthfully, I don't check my phone, I don't check my email. And he said, well, this is kind of important, this is our national news, and we'd really like you to get the story out about the refugees and what the church is doing. And so I returned the call, and I ended up on their national news. The last day I was there, the priest sat me down, and they said, you know, we so appreciate everything you've done, but we are going to ask one favor of you. We would like you to make sure to tell others about the story, because people hear about the war, and they hear about the destruction, and they hear about the soldiers, and they hear about the conflict and the politics, but not a lot of people are aware of what the refugees are going through.
Yeah.
And along the way, the priest, right when I got there after crossing the border into Poland, the priest asked me, he said, why are you here? Why are you here? And he's using his translator, and I'm using my translator. And I had been on the road for 36 hours to get to where I was going to be. And I said, you know what, if you had asked me this yesterday, I couldn't have answered this question, but I can now. And I answer it this way. If my wife, if my daughter were running for their lives, escaping the war, seeing their city be destroyed and everything around them going and being blown up, I would hope in my heart that there is somebody on the other side that would feed them, that would offer them sanctuary, offer them safety, and give them a hug. And so for me, that was a defining moment.
Well, you're here, I told you that I think this is a very important story, not just to publicize what you've done, but to make, certainly from a clergy perspective, this is a role model moment.
So on the national news,
yes,
they interviewed me for a while and took pictures of me in the kitchen. But then they interviewed some of the refugees, but they also interviewed the priests.
Yes.
And the priest, there's the moment that I thought was in some way ironic and comical, and you as a clergy would appreciate, is that the priest said, look, we opened our doors to the refugees. We did this because this is what we do. We're leaders within our community, and this is in our being. This is your job, this is their job, is to take care of your community. He said, this guy shows up and he has no relationships with anyone in the Ukraine. He has no friends or family. He is not even baptized. But I showed up, and he said, look, it made a difference.
You know, my favorite passage in all of the Gospels is in Matthew 23. Okay. Oh no, it's not Matthew.
I'm not familiar.
No, it's okay. That's actually not. It's as you do to the least of me, least of among us, so I will do for you. And that you have just exemplified that passage.
I thank you. It's funny because again, I'm not religious. I've told you this.
It's not about being religious.
No, I understand.
It's about being human.
And while I was there, somebody sent me a note and referred to a biblical passage that I actually had to ask the priest. I said, you know, what does this mean? and so yeah, it's.
Well, you really do. Establish a role model for lots of us on a lot of levels. We've been talking to Scott Cohn. Scott just came back from feeding. How many people did you feed? Do you have any idea?
It was between 50 and 200 people a day.
Wow.
You know, and breakfast was at 9 o'clock sharp.
Yeah.
Dinner was at 6 o'clock sharp.
Yeah.
when I got there, people would kind of wander in along, just over a period of an hour or so. Within a week of them tasting and eating my food, the line started forming about 5:45.
Wow.
And literally went all the way up the stairs.
Wow, that's terrific. Well, Scott, thank you not only for what you've done and for the example that you set for us, but for being on the Rabbi's Roundtable. There's more discussion in this, and you'll come back. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me.
Appreciate it. We will be back momentarily, Easton.
Did you know? MCTV programming is available online. Find our shows like Rabbi's Roundtable, Carlisle's Chesapeake, The Shameless Picture Show, Conversations with Sherry, and the Avalon Theater Presents at youtube.com/Midshore Community Television.
And we are back, Easton, and this, as I've said 3 times now, is the first Rabbi's Roundtable of 2023. Yeah, I know, it's exciting. And my last guest is Dina Kilman. Dina is Director of Strategic Initiatives at the EEDC. For those of you who don't know what that means, it means the Easton Economic Development Corporation, a very important group within our city, strategically as well as visionarily. And is there a word, visionarily?
You can make it up. It's your show.
I know. Yeah, yes, that's what you do when you write for a living. But thank you for being here.
Of course.
Tell us a little bit about your background, where you're from, and how did you get to where you are now?
So I'm from North Carolina originally.
Oh,
so
where?
Born in Raleigh. I grew up in Wilmington, Rice
nice.
Beach.
Yeah.
Right. So I went to the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, Tar Heels.
I have relatives that all went to Duke.
Oh my goodness! Well, I still like you.
Yeah, thank you.
But my husband went there as well, so we met in college.
Very nice.
And a pivotal moment in my life was I read James Michener's Chesapeake in 9th grade, fell in love with the area, had already visited the area, and I met him at a fraternity party, and it was kismet. I just fell in love with him at first sight because he had a St. Michael's shirt on. And
that's so cool.
That was 32 years ago. So
nice.
We moved here to raise our children. We've been here most of their lives, and have had various positions and nonprofits and roles in the town, and been on the board of the chamber, that sort of thing. So happily, I'm here now with the EDC.
Well, as a community that I say continues to grow dramatically and impressively, the EEDC is such an important element and factor in the growth. I've always said I'm honored to serve on the EDC board. I always say I'm a fish out of water because everybody is so entrepreneurially successful, and I give sermons, so what can I tell you?
No, but you know how to talk to people and relate to people, which is all about economic development. So.
That's absolutely, that's correct. If you can't talk to people, you can't succeed.
Exactly.
I actually learned that working behind the counter of my father's jewelry store in Connecticut.
Oh,
very much awesome. Like Cher the jeweler, very similar store, good quality products, and I started working when I was 8 years old, selling watches and whatever else they let me sell.
Oh, that's great.
So there's a lot of stuff going on. Tell us about what's coming up for Easton and what we should be as a community thinking about and anticipating.
Well, there's a lot.
Yes.
So I'll have to come back again.
There always is.
The EDC obviously is very pivotal to what's going on. Sometimes we're working behind the scenes. So our executive director, Holly, is actually working behind the scenes, bringing new businesses to town, helping people understand when they're in town.
Sure.
How do they get that permit for whatever, that sort of thing, working with the town. I work with also Lance Morris, who's our communications associate.
Yes.
So you may see him downtown taking pictures, setting up events, that sort of thing.
Tell Lance I said hi.
I will. He's working hard up there today. So the EDC also runs, though. It's very exciting news for us. We run the community events. Let's start there. We run the community engagement events for the town of Easton.
Great.
So the holiday parade, the St. Patrick's Day parade, the Easter Bunny sort of thing. We also run the retail events that are downtown, like Moonlight Madness and all those shopping events you see. Exciting news, though. We've also acquired the Discover Easton brand. So
wonderful.
Very exciting. That is our tourism brand. It was run by another organization. Yep. It is now coming under our one house. So terrific. We're very excited to start helping develop that regionally and locally as well.
And do we have anything to do with the crab drop?
We do.
Yes.
So Carolyn Jaffe is the founder and the mistress of ceremonies, I would say, at the Crab Drop for 29 years. Yep. But the EDC and Discover Easton certainly support it. We market it, we staff it, we help as best we can. And Carolyn has a whole crew of volunteers. So next year's our 30th year.
I've been to several of them. They're always so much
very
fun.
Exciting.
Yes.
Very exciting.
And we have some free family events coming.
Absolutely. There's a whole schedule at discovereaston.com, or it will be up soon, that we have all kinds. Anything you see that we do is generally free outdoors. So the Easter Bunny Parade, or the Easter Bunny event, the St. Patrick's Day Parade, that sort of thing. But the most exciting thing we have coming up is Fire and Ice. So I actually brought you this for the temple. Okay, you can put that up.
I will bring it to the temple, absolutely.
Our Chesapeake Fire and Ice Festival is coming up. This is going to be a great event. There'll be sculptures all over town. Your previous guest was here from the Academy Art Museum. Mm-hmm. She will have an interactive art wall there in the courtyard for pet families and people to hang out with. Yep. We will have an ice skating rink. That will be exciting. That's provided by Blue Point Hospitality Group.
Very nice.
The sponsors of the event, actually the presenting sponsors, are the Preston Automotive Group, as well as the Safe House Group. They will also have a huge sculpture that they are sponsoring, a live carving demonstration.
Terrific.
We'll have a fire juggler. So, have you seen that before?
Only on television.
Okay, well, Cascade and Carlos will be here juggling fire.
Wow.
We'll have a fire and whiskey trail, and then an ice and snow trail. So that'll be explained later in some of our press releases. But essentially, you'll have a treasure map. You'll go around town, find all the sculptures, find all the food and drink, and have a little fun.
That sounds fabulous. It's exciting. These kinds of things, as they've heard me say for a very long time, these speak to the dynamic nature of our community.
Absolutely.
Right? And how the community not only has grown, but matured and has been ameliorated, elevated. And I think it's fabulous. How wonderful.
It should bring several thousand people, we're hoping, Friday and Saturday. It's February 17th and 18th.
Good.
It is completely free, due to the generosity of our sponsors and the town of Easton.
Sure.
There's no charge for anything. The children's activities will be free. Talbot Humane's having a kissing booth for puppies.
Oh, that's so cool.
So you can get your picture made there.
No, thank you.
But some people enjoy that sort of thing.
Of course.
There'll be live music, different venues.
That's wonderful.
Yeah,
the live music, again, it speaks to the culture, to the sophistication, and to the horizon. I think it's just wonderful. This is all available online.
DiscoverEaston.com.
Yep,
Facebook, Discover Easton, and Instagram, Discover Easton.
And tell me about the fire and whiskey. Never mind.
We'll send you a specific agenda.
Thank you very much. Anything else we should know about what's coming up, even past this?
Sure. St. Patrick's Day Parade is coming up right almost directly after that. Yeah. We're going to have teams. So we want to see some teams in our potato race, which is a little known thing that happens in downtown Easton, but almost as famous as the crab drop. You can have a corporate team. You're welcome to wear your corporate shirts and have a little fun. There's a trophy involved. And a little break during COVID, but it's back. The parade is featuring the golf carts.
Oh, good.
So you can decorate a golf cart if you want. You can get in touch with us about being enter into that soon. And then we'll have a full lineup of community events, outdoor movies, all kinds of things.
Wonderful, wonderful. There's. If I hear one more person say there's nothing to do in Easton.
Oh my gosh, there's so much to do. Oh my gosh.
Don't even go there.
This is just what we are doing.
I know.
The Avalon and the Art Academy and the art museums and the restaurants. There's so much to do. And we're hoping to showcase all that on our Discover Easton site. There's an event listing. If you can't figure out what to do, call me or Lance. We'll give you something to do.
Well, and actually, not to plug it, but I am. We have the February lecture series coming up at the synagogue, and we have we bring in scholars and people of substance. Each year the theme changes, but
Oh, that's wonderful.
yeah, but you know, this is not just a dot on the map.
No, and also when the Annapolis Opera was your
Yeah, well,
previous guest
yeah,
mentioned,
Cheryl,
that's
yeah.
fantastic.
Ah.
So we'll advertise that on Discover Easton for you.
And Rachel Franklin is a magnificent pianist. If you've never heard her, if you have a chance, come over.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's
And
worth the
you can
gig.
email details to us too. I should tell everybody that.
Oh, good.
info@eastonedc.com or Dina@eastonedc.com or
Okay.
go to our website, Facebook message us, however you want to get us the news.
I'm not on Facebook. I'm not. So, but no, this is it's very exciting, and it just again speaks to the nature of our community. So I really, Dina, appreciate you being here.
Absolutely, thank you for having me.
Oh, you'll come back. There's more, and you and Holly can come back together.
Oh, there's
and
so
we'll
much
talk.
more.
Yeah,
We'll have
there's-
events every month,
Yeah,
every week.
yeah,
So
so-
thank you so much.
We've been talking with Dina Kilman, who is the Director of Strategic Initiatives for the Easton Economic Development Corporation. Thank you for your time, thank you for your vision, and thank you for what you guys do for the community.
Thank you for having us.
And Easton, this concludes the first show, but not the last, of 2023. We'll see you again on the Rabbi's Roundtable.